Right now, there is a big question on everybody's mind. When can we get back to worshiping together? And unfortunately, there is no real clear answer to that question. As you're well aware of the information and the misinformation about this disease is changing every minute, and it takes time to sort through all of that information to make an informed decision. There are a few things that we are certain of. One, close environments are a sure way to spread this virus. Two, when speaking or singing, the virus becomes aerosolized and it can spread even quicker. Three, the virus is no longer limited to the elderly or those with compromised immune systems. And four, the health and safety of this congregation are primary importance of mine as your pastor. With all that in mind, I've worked with the worship and music team and the council to develop a plan to guide us along the way as we bring our sheep back to this pasture. Please keep in mind, this is a guideline. We may be making changes to this as we learn more about the virus, how the virus is spread, and how it reacts. But we hope that this will at least give people a sense of a light at the end of the tunnel. Before I get into the plan, I want to compliment and thank this congregation for their faithfulness to the ministry and their support to me as your pastor. We never had a class in seminary on how to minister through a pandemic, so this has been on-the-job training for me. I appreciate your patience and your support during this time. This plan follows a general progression suggested by health professionals. It's not perfect, and we will not eliminate every possible chance for contamination. But this plan seeks to limit the aspects of contamination and keep our congregation safe and healthy. For the last couple of months, we've been following the safer at home requirements. This, of course, has removed our ability to gather together in worship. While gatherings of 10 or less were allowed for churches during this time, I felt it best for us to be apart from each other until we had a better idea how this novel virus was going to react. We will continue in this stage for a while yet, by doing our video worships and drive-through blessings. But I do feel that there are ways that we could now offer no-contact communion to people that may want to have it. This is how it would work. No-contact communion would be available only here in the sanctuary. You will need to call and make an appointment. Please simply don't just show up. When you arrive, I'll be standing behind the altar, and communion will have been prepared for you and already set out. During the preparation of the elements, I will be wearing a mask and gloves. Once you arrive, we will gather at a safe distance. I will share a prayer with you. You will then be invited to take the elements. As you are leaving, please discard the glass and the napkin in the waste bin. While I still think it's best to fast from the celebration of Holy Communion until we can gather together as a community in some form, I know that for many, this has been a tough time, and the celebration of the Eucharist is a calming aspect of their faith life. I'm glad that we will be able to share that with you in at least a limited way. Unfortunately, homebound communion is still not advisable at this point. Once the council and I feel that we are ready to enter the next phase, we will move into phase 1. Phase 1 would offer several short devotional services each week for no more than 9 people. Because we would be limiting the spaces, you would need to reserve your spot for this service in advance. When we get into that phase, we'll share with you how to do that. These services will be about 10 minutes, and they'll have scripture, a devotional message, and Holy Communion will be offered. Physical distancing will be strongly encouraged, and worshipers will be asked to wear a mask for these devotional services. During this phase, we will also continue our worship videos as well. More than likely, these services will be offered in Fellowship Hall. Using the plastic chairs will make cleaning and sanitizing between services a little easier. It will also allow us to have good distancing between the seats. Phase 2 will be similar, but we'll have several services, roughly about 45 people in each. Again, congregants would need to reserve space for these services, and more than likely we'll be having these services also in Fellowship Hall for the ease of cleaning and sanitizing. Several services will be offered each week, including Tuesday noon, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and we might possibly throw in like a Wednesday night service as well. We will see when we get to that phase where we are at. The biggest issue with gathering together as a community will be the issue of singing. Brian and I are keeping our eyes and our ears open to the information from medical professionals and professional organizations regarding the implementation of singing in worship. But it is our fear that we are a long ways away from being able to lift our voices in praise. Phase 3 would see us back in the worship in the sanctuary and hopefully lifting many of the restrictions that we've been living with. This will also be when we reinstitute coffee fellowship as well. As you can imagine, this will be some time away for us. A number of other things will be changing around the church when we are able to gather together again. One of the things that I will be changing is that I will no longer be greeting you at the door after worship. I have learned that in our normal cold and flu season, I am patient zero for passing of germs. So after worship services, I will be available to talk with you, but I will not be standing at the door to greet you. We will also see some changes to our communion practices. It has become clear that the practice of intinction is not a healthy practice for congregations. For a while, we will be using individual recyclable cups. We may also be looking at the number of servers on a Sunday morning, but those are issues we will address as time goes on. We will also be making some changes to the passing of the peace. I know that many congregations are rethinking that practice altogether. And while I'm not in a place to start having that conversation, I do think we need to make sure that we greet each other in a responsible manner that communicates our care for the other. But for all this to work, I need your help. Many of you are strong and resilient people, and many of you are stubborn. I know I can be. And when we're called on to think of somebody other than ourselves, our human sinfulness comes in to play, and it can be a difficult request for us to have asked of us. So there are a few things I need you to do to take care of all of our congregation. 1, please wear a mask. While the issue of wearing a mask is fast becoming a political one in our country, it is a measure of safety that you can take to help keep others safe. 2, if you're not feeling well or you have a fever, please stay home from worship and other church activities. It is better to miss one service than to bring hardship on a whole bunch of other people. And 3, please pray. Pray for safety, guidance, strength, and compassion. I know that this has been a lot of information, so if you have any questions, please let me know. I prefer that the questions be asked of me directly. Please don't comment in the video. Comment sections are an evil placed in our culture that challenge my faith in humanity. So if you have a question, please contact me directly. And I'll do a follow-up video with some of those questions and answers so other people can hear them as well. In the book of 2 John, he says that at the end of his letter, he has so much more to say, but he doesn't want to use paper and ink. He longs for the day when he can see the receivers of his letter face to face. I too look forward to a day when I no longer have to communicate through these video formats, but where we can see each other face to face, and in that, our joy will be complete.